Alrighty. So, real quick, I'm taking advantage of the fact that we have like a stupid amount of snow outside and it's very, very bright outside. And so I have actually figured out that I was able to capture the camera obscura here at Lewis and Clark on video, which is really hard to do because it's usually way too dark. Usually to get any kind of image from the camera obscura, we have to do a long exposure, and we found that sometimes it takes a couple minutes of an exposure to actually be able to see what you could actually see live and in person here at the camera obscura. So since it's so bright outside, it's the perfect conditions to be able to capture it on video. If I turn my ISO up to like H2, we can actually see what happens here. So for those of you who do not know what a camera obscura is, and for some of my students who I have night classes, and at nighttime you can't see the camera obscura, we have to have light and lots of it. So I wanted to share this. For those of you who don't know what a camera obscura is, it's basically, in the simplest of terms, it's like being inside a ginormous pinhole camera, which is what it is. It's a pinhole camera. It's a camera at the most basic level. It is a container, which is the classroom. It's been made light tight. Let me grab my camera here and show you that it's been made light tight because we only have one set of windows here in the studio at Lewis and Clark. And so what we did was we took black plastic and we basically completely covered all the windows in black plastic. We actually put trash bags together and hung them up and completely made the room light tight. And then inside, what you'll notice inside on the lens, or we created a lens basically by poking holes in the plastic. Now I have a bunch of different sized holes, and what these do is they kind of mimic the aperture of the lens. What the aperture is it's the opening to the lens. You can actually shut down the opening of the lens to allow less or more light to come in. Think of it kind of like your pupil of your eye. The camera is a lot like the eye. So when it's really bright out, your pupils go down very small, and that's what most apertures you want to have a smaller opening. Then when it's kind of dark, you open up the aperture, your pupil would open up to allow more light in so that you could actually make an exposure or be able to see. So that's what these holes in the plastic do. I have different sizes that mimic the size of the apertures. Now obviously, when it's kind of dark, and it's about to get very dark in here, the bigger the opening, the more light we can let in, the easier we can see things. So just like with a camera or with our eye, what a camera obscura does is we have light outside of the classroom. So we're facing part of a parking lot, some trees, and a sidewalk. Light hits all of those objects, comes back and is brought back through our lens. And just like with our eyes, when the light waves come back through, they kind of crisscross. And when we get images that come into our eyes, they hit the back of our eye and they're actually upside down, they're reversed, because the light waves cross on their path into our eyes. Our brains take that information and they flip-flop everything so everything's right side up. Inside a camera, the same thing happens. When light comes into your lens, the light waves will crisscross and actually the image is turned upside down. Digital cameras, the computer inside flips it right way around, and in film, it's just on a piece of plastic, so basically when we pull the plastic out, we don't know which way it was actually supposed to be, so it's actually turned the right way. So, without further ado, so basically what we have here is we have the lens, like I said, we have the camera body, which is the entire classroom, and then we have quote-unquote film and or sensor, depending on what type of camera you like to use. Now, the image from the outside will actually project all over the room, but it's actually much easier to see it if we have something for it white to hit, so that's why I have the projector screen down, and I also have our white backdrop, our 10 by 24 foot backdrop, so that the image is hit quicker and you can see it a lot faster. It doesn't take as long for your eyes to acclimate and actually be able to see things. When the image comes in, a lot of people, even though I tell them, a lot of the students, when I tell them, you know, this is how your eye sees, this is how a camera sees, the image comes in upside down, it's so funny when they first start to actually see the images coming in, they're like, oh my gosh, it's all upside down. Because basically on this part of the sensor, you're going to see the ground, and then down here on the floor, you'll actually start seeing the trees, which is kind of funny. So I am going to turn off the lights real quick. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the video, and when I come back, we will shut the lights off and be able to see the inside of a camera obscura. Okay, so I have turned the ISO of the camera up to H1, which is the highest ISO I could set. I'm going to turn off the lights in the room, and hopefully you'll be able to see an image projected, well, and my big shadow in the way, see the image projected on our sensor or our film. See if I can, and you can actually see people walking across the campus, which is kind of funny. And I'm trying to bring my settings up as high as I can get them so you can actually see. But usually we can't get this on video because it's just too dark. So you can notice I've actually turned to the projector screen, and you really can't see anything on it because it's just too dark. I have kind of a middle range aperture going right now. I'd say probably maybe about, I would liken this to maybe like an f8 possibly. It's about mid-range, somewhere between like maybe an f5.6, well, more like an f8 I think. So you can actually see the brightest part of the outside, and you notice the trees are all upside down. But what's really fun is, and you can kind of notice the difference here, I'm going to just kind of do like a split screen here, is if I go over and I cover up the f8, and I open up a hole that I made that mimics, say, an f2 or maybe like a 1.8. So I'm going to open up basically a bigger opening. And when I do that, you should be able to see things much easier. Now you can probably actually see the parking lot over on the side here that was too dark before, and definitely can see the outside world here. The thing that you'll notice, and this is kind of important to understand, the bigger open your aperture is, the less your focal length is going to be. So you're going to get a very short range of focus. On the video, it appears as though things look still nice and in focus, but they really aren't. If you were in the room, you'd see that the image is very out of focus. It's a very, very, very soft focus at best. So sometimes it's kind of fun in the class when I get the classroom in here, especially the advanced students, because they kind of know how this works. They kind of understand manual camera settings and how aperture and shutter speed and things work. So what we like to do is kind of experiment with, okay, so, you know, we have a bigger aperture opening. How can we make our image in focus? And so they try to rationalize, how can we make the image more focused? If we move the backdrop closer to the hole or farther away from the hole, if we take magnifying glasses or other type of optics and try to hone the image a little more through an optic, will that help? So there's a lot of different uses for a camera obscura in a photography class, I think. I think there's a lot of different things. It's not so much the wow factor, which even my most veteran camera nerds still come in here and will sit in here for hours with me and just have fun just marveling at the fact that we can create an image with nothing but a hole and a piece of plastic and some vinyl backdrop. So I don't care who you are. That's cool. I think that's very cool. And I am so glad that I did the research, that I found out how to do this, and that I could find the perfect space to create a camera obscura for everyone here at Lewis & Clark. Like I like to tell everybody, it's not just art, this is science too. So yay, science. So I hope you enjoyed my quick little tutorial on camera obscura, and I hope you enjoyed being inside a ginormous camera. Oh look, somebody's walking their dog.